Classic Restoration, celebrating 35 years in business. Jack, how did the shop get started?
Back in 1991, my sister and I both happened to be out of a job at the same time. I had moved from a real estate career and she was moving from something, and we needed to make some money. So we thought, gee, what better thing to do than detail a few cars? So my dad had space in his garage over by the Denver Country Club area. We decided we'll detail some cars and make some quick money for the summer, and then that was our whole goal right at the beginning.
Next question, did you imagine you'd still be doing this 35 years later?
We didn't imagine we'd be doing it 6 months later. But what happened is we got about 3 months in, and my brother knew a fellow here in Englewood in this area, Mike DePuja, who had a business called Mike's Performance Center, and he worked on vintage race cars. And my brother said they have an old Delahaye that they got some damage on in shipping and want somebody to come and polish it, but they need somebody to come to their location because it's $1 million car. So my sister and I dressed up in our crazy outfits that we had developed. We had a white lab coat, white pants, white shoes, and red shirts. And we descended on this place, and they thought we landed from the moon. They thought we were completely out of our minds. Well, we came in, we taped the car all off. We were so careful. We fixed the damage. And when it was all done, it looked beautiful. And Mike was he was amazed. And he said, "Where do you guys work out of?" And we're like, "Oh, we have a little garage over by the Denver Country Club." He said, "Well, we've got some space here. Would you be interested in renting some space? We have 800 feet. And then you could do a little work for us on the side." And we're like, "Yeah, we'll think about it." Of course, we did it. And the next thing you know, we were working on some old vintage race cars for him. The first one we did was a Maserati Indy car that's super famous. It's a 1939 Maserati that ran in Indianapolis. And he had the body stripped off, and he had us paint the frame on it. So we were literally working with little paint brushes and painting the frame of this car during the restoration. And that was something that kind of got us hooked. Once we got a hold of one of those old vintage race cars, there was no turning back.
What was the first car that was restored that you can remember, kind of complete restoration maybe, or a milestone car from those early years?
Our very first kind of complete restoration was a 1940 LaSalle that belonged to a customer, and it was a beautiful dark green color. So we worked with the customer and we came up with a really nice color. It looked almost black inside, but when you took it outdoors, it had this beautiful deep green tone. And we did that whole car and polished it up beautifully, and the customer just loved the way it looked. And that was really our first complete job that started and finished at the shop. And then right after that, we did a beautiful Pontiac Chieftain convertible. And that was an even more complete detail. We had bodywork, paint, interior, and engine. So that was truly our first full restoration.
So there's a lot of detail shops around these days. What makes you guys different?
Well, we've been doing it now 35 years. We still have customers that are with us from when we started, believe it or not. And we have always just strived to deliver more than the customer wanted, more than they expected. And we really push our quality. It's all about learning new methods, learning how to make it better, how to make the finishes last longer. So the work we do today is literally miles ahead of our best work 20 and 25 years ago. And that work was great. But today when we do a car, the polish lasts because of ceramic coat. There's no swirl marks because we use a completely different polishing system. So we have better longevity and really a much better product.
How has restoration changed since the early days when you started?
Well, I don't know that it's changed as much as it's easier now because we have the internet. That's when I think about the biggest single change, It's the ability to get on the internet and find information and find availability of parts. When we first started, we had the phone book, the yellow pages, we had Hemmings Motor News, and a telephone. That was it. And if you needed a part, you started dialing the phone and talking to people and hoping for the best, and of course mailing things. And the change is dramatic. Now we have AI, which we use in the shop all the time. We get on ChatGPT and we can research and find out different things about how to do a process, what the best method is for a process, and it saves us a lot of time and trouble.
I see. What do you feel is the biggest shift? Technology, customers, or cars?
Well, the cars are amazingly different. Modern cars are at another level. Even from 20 years ago, the cars today, after the year 2000, it seemed like it started to change exponentially, kind of like Moore's Law. They don't just get a little bit better, they're hugely better in many respects. The technology, the design, the materials and whatnot. Modern cars, and especially modern electrics, are remarkable.
What can you do today that wasn't possible back then?
I don't think there's anything we do today that wasn't possible back then. The biggest thing has to do with the computer. Like I said, just being able to research, gather information, and learn about the car or a process to fix the car. And so much of that information was hidden away from us before. Unless you had every shop manual and every workshop manual, and some of those manuals were, 3 inches thick. And we used to buy them, and we still buy them oftentimes. Now we can go on the internet. We can say, we're working on a 1955 Mercedes Gullwing, and this is a problem, and what are some of the things that people have done over the years to fix this problem? And we'll get a huge amount of information at our fingertips. It saves us so much time.
What's one project you'll never forget?
We worked on a 1961 Ferrari 250 PF Cabriolet, and when we got it, it was in just horrible condition. It had been in another shop, and they charged the customer almost $700,000, and the car didn't even have wheels on it. And when we picked it up from the shop, it went from 70 degrees indoors to 0 degrees outside to be loaded. And our driver called and he said, "It sounds like there's popcorn popping in my trailer. And when I looked at the car, the paint's popping off." And we just couldn't even believe it. And large chunks of paint literally popped off the body. They'd put filler on too thick and they didn't prepare the surface right. To change the temperature, it all fell off. So when the car got here, we had to start by stripping it all back down to metal. And then it just got worse from there. When we finished it, it won a prize at Cavallino. It won a Platinum Award, and it turned out to be an absolutely magnificent car. But it had a very challenging start that was quite memorable.
What was your most challenging restoration?
They're all challenging. That Maserati that we're going to look at later, the dark blue one, was a very challenging car. It has a very complex interior. It was a lot of work to get that right. We also did a beautiful 300 SL Roadster that was quite a challenge, especially on the interior. When we went to put the new leather on the dashboard, when we stretched it over, it's one big piece of leather, and you've got to stretch it over several curves. And there was one place on the left side of the bezels where the instruments go. Whenever we stretched it, it ripped. So it took 3 times before we could get a piece of leather stretched over it properly without tearing the leather in half. So it was memorable.
What does doing it right really mean to you?
It means first figuring out what right is, figuring out where you want to go and what the end product is supposed to be. And that changes between cars, and it changes with customers. When somebody says, "I want the car perfect," well, perfect to one person can be different than another. Sometimes we need to make a car that's going to be judged on a very strict level, and we have to get every little screw perfect. Every little nut has to be right. The materials, the colors, everything has to fall within a certain range. And then there's a customer that wants a beautiful car to drive on the weekends. So it all comes down to establishing where we're starting and where the customer wants to go.
Why does craftsmanship still matter?
Craftsmanship is a slowly dying art to a great degree because so many of the great craftsmen that built these cars aren't around anymore. And unfortunately, a lot of the craftsmen that have been working on the cars for the last 30 years are no longer doing it. So we are having to teach a younger generation how to do what these masters did over the last 50 years. And it's really quite an interesting challenge. One of the things that separates what we do here is what the car looks like 10 years later. When we do a car like this Maserati behind us, which was completed around 2015, we expect that car to look good for 30 years, 40 years. When we use products, we think about, okay, how well is this going to hold up? Will it ever rust again? How can we fix it so that what we're putting on it now is going to still look good in the future? We don't like paint to shrink up. Sometimes inexpensive restorations or restorations done by people that don't understand the process properly. You look at the car 5 years, 3 years, even a year later, and sometimes you see shrink marks, which look like sanding marks in the paint, and they didn't prepare the surfaces correctly, and that paint starts to change. The car behind us, it never did that. This paint looks as beautiful now as it did 10 years ago. And that's really one of the signs of a fantastic restoration is longevity.
How important has your team been through the 35 years?
The team is everything. Nothing gets done without the team. We have amazing people here. Some of our people have been here over 24 years, and that's a good testament to the fact that we treat them well. We really enjoy our people, and we try very hard to have a very cohesive team. And at this point, I would say in our business, our team is the best it's ever been. Our manager, Doug Brown, and Luis, they've built a fantastic group of guys, and they're so talented. Each and every one of them individually is a master.
What do you look for when you're trying to get a new team member?
A passion, interest. It's not just a job. We want them to be doing something that they love, because if it's just coming to work, it's not what we're after. The reason we're here is because we love the cars. We're preserving history. I mean, that's really what we're doing. These cars are a piece of automotive history, and our goal is to bring them into the future for another generation to enjoy. So there's more to it than just creating a shiny object for somebody. We're often creating a legacy car or something for a family that they can enjoy, pass down to their younger relatives and so forth. And that happens a lot.
When you were coming up in the industry, were there any mentors who shaped your approach?
Well, one of my early mentors was an uncle of mine. His name was Temple Beal Jr. He was a partner of my dad in their Chrysler dealership that they bought in 1963. And he was just fresh off of a racing career. He had a racing team from about 1955 through 1959. And he had Ferraris, Maseratis, some Jaguars, and a few other interesting cars over the years, but mostly Ferraris and Maseratis. And he used to sit around and tell me stories of these cars. Have Carroll Shelby, Juan Fangio, Sterling Moss, Mike Hawthorne, these famous drivers all drove his cars. And he'd tell me stories of these cars going down the straights at Le Mans and so forth. And I was just fascinated. So I always had an interest. And then when I got the chance to work with Mike at that performance center of his, some of those very same cars were cars that I got to work on. Actually, a couple of them that my uncle had owned or driven. So Mike became quite an influence on me, and he was a mentor. He used to give me a lot of guidance on how to do certain things, and it was so valuable.
Is there a single biggest mistake someone can make when they want to restore a classic?
Well, the first mistake is misestimating the effort, not figuring out correctly what it's really going to take to restore the car. Often people have no idea that it might take 1,500 or 2,500 hours to restore a car. They think that we just paint it. So when we hear the word just, we start getting really, really nervous. Because when you take something apart, there's no just involved. It's a lot of work. So that's one of the things. They don't figure it out ahead of time. And then sometimes they pick the wrong shop. That's one of the biggest mistakes. They don't do their research. They don't delve into the people they're getting ready to have a financial relationship with. And that's one of the things that we've done in our business, is we've set our finances up in such a way that when a customer makes a deposit, it goes into a very secured account, and that money is not touched until the work is completed on the customer's car. And then we take some money from that account to pay for the work that got done, and we leave all the rest in there. We never mix the funds. That's a huge thing. Many of our customers that have been ripped off at restoration shops gave them a pile of money, and then they used it to fix another guy's car or to pay their light bill or something else, and then they weren't able to complete the project because they ran out of the customer's money because they didn't spend it on his car. So when we saw that, we came up with a different financial system that would protect the customers and protect us. So if a customer decides halfway through the project, I want my money back and I want a check right now, we write them a check and hand it to them. It doesn't happen often, but it's happened a couple of times over the years, and they were very happy to be able to get their money back that day. Doesn't happen too often in our business.
You said that you work with a lot of stalled projects. What generally goes wrong when the project stalls at another shop? Is it budget or timeline or expectations?
When a project stalls at another shop, often they've had a disagreement with the shop owner or the manager of the shop. They don't feel like they're getting what they wanted. They're probably experiencing work that's lower quality than they expected to begin with, and then they all get in a big fight about it. And we get a lot of cars from other shops, and when they come here, then the truth really gets revealed. And oftentimes it's pretty bad. They don't wire them correctly. They haven't done the metal work right. They didn't prepare the paint correctly. They didn't put things together right. A lot of times we have to take many things apart to correct some problems that we have. So it all starts out from a bad beginning. That's why it's so important to select the shop carefully and do your research before you jump into a restoration with someone you don't know.
If you were talking to someone who was just considering doing a restoration, what steps might they take before starting a project?
A very good place to start is on Google. Just do the review search. See what kind of reviews the shop has. And if they have pretty good reviews, you can call them and talk to them and see how they are on the phone. See if they're friendly and responsive. See if it's somebody that you think you can get along with. And then I recommend asking for referrals. Get that shop to give you a couple of customers kind of at random that have worked with them before, so that you can call them up and get a good feel from somebody other than the shop, how they did and how the car is. And, did they meet their expectations? That's not hard to do, and a good shop will give you those people.
Is there one sort of decision or tactic that someone might use that could save them thousands of dollars?
Just going back to the beginning, make a good decision to start with, and then really look at, is the car worth restoring? I counsel people when they come here and they say, we've got my dad's 1964 Chevy Impala four-door, and we want to restore it for our grandkids. And I know at that point you're looking at a car that's maybe worth $8,000 and it's going to cost $180,000 to make it like brand new. And I have to sit him down and explain the hard facts to him. So it all comes down to the very first decisions you make when you enter a restoration project. Does the car make sense? Does the money make sense? Do the reasons make sense? And then can the shop deliver? When we do a full restoration, something like this Maserati behind us, that probably takes 4,000 or 5,000 hours of labor and a huge dollar volume in parts, equipment, leather, paint, all the different components that go into it. You have to look at the hours and how much those hours cost. Our business when we started was $25 an hour. Now our rates are closer to $200 an hour. And it still barely keeps up with the inflation that we deal with. So it's a big investment. It's a big investment for us because it's a huge amount of work, time, people, effort. It's also a huge investment for the customer because he's paying a huge amount of money. And you want to make sure in the end the car justifies it. So today what I would say is that there are probably less gigantic, huge projects being done because many of them have already been done. And what we're seeing now is we're doing smaller projects. We're maybe repainting or refreshing a car that was restored many years ago, but it still has a very good, solid foundation, and maybe the paint's just bad. Oftentimes we do a lot of work on exterior paint to make an old paint job look like new again without repainting it. That's a very popular service that we offer, and it can cost tens of thousands of dollars less than repainting a car. And when you're done, most people couldn't tell the difference. There's a car we have in the shop right now that got painted probably 20 years ago, and the paint looked pretty sad and tired. And we've sanded it and polished it, and now that car looks like it just came out of our own paint booth. And it's fantastic, and it's just going to cost a fraction of what a paint job would cost.
What excites you about the future?
I love the new cars that are being produced today. I think they're just spectacular. There's been quite a bit of advance in many of the cars, especially the electric cars. This is a field that we've gotten into, doing some electric conversions on classic sports cars. It's been quite a learning experience. It's also really interesting to give a new source of power to some of these old cars, especially since they're faster. Anything faster is good in my world.
Are there any dream projects that are still on your list that you haven't worked on yet?
I would love to take a Maserati like that blue one back there and put a modern Maserati engine into it. We've been doing a lot of resto mods lately where we put modern, amazing, powerful engines in some of these older cars. We're doing a 67 Shelby Eleanor, and we're installing a modern Ford performance engine called an Illuminator. It's about a 586 horsepower flat plane crank, beautiful, powerful engine. And it's taken quite a bit to put that in. We had to change the suspension and the entire engine compartment, but it's going to be one of a kind. There isn't another one in the world.
What do you hope the shop is known for 20 years from now?
Really high quality work and nice people to deal with. We've always stressed being friendly to our customers and being a place where people can enjoy coming for a visit. And that's always really high on my list of what I'd love to see carry on into the future.
What does 35 years mean to you personally?
The time's gone by too fast. It's ripped along. We call this place a time warp because you come to work in the morning and you turn around and it's time to go home. It's crazy how the days go by here, especially when we get deep into a lot of projects that are interesting and you just get absorbed into the projects. So it's not like working in a cubicle and you're not sitting there looking at the clock all day long. you're hoping, if anything, you've got a little bit more time to finish what you're currently on. So future-wise, this business is changing and evolving, and we're going to change and evolve with it and see where it goes. We don't really know that 100%, but we do know that there's always a need for good craftsmen. There's going to always be a need for people that can fix something that's broken. And one thing for sure about these old cars, there's always something broken that needs to be fixed. So we have job security.
Any advice for young enthusiasts or young technicians?
Yeah, get into the business, get with a shop, come over here. We've trained a lot of young guys, and we're always open and looking for really talented young guys that want to bring us, forward with them as they learn and grow. And we have some great techs here that are willing to teach the younger guys how to do something. And that's not always the case everywhere, but we feel really strongly about helping some younger guys learn what we know so it doesn't become lost technology.
And lastly, what would you like to say to your customers?
Well, mainly thank you. We've had some of the most amazing customers over the years that have dealt with the ups and downs of a restoration, which is always interesting. There's always drama involved, things that are unexpected, costs that go way up and over sometimes. It's a very passionate, driven world, and our customers have been spectacular. They've become, so many of them have just become wonderful friends over the years, and that's how this car world is. It's a kind of a tight community and lots of friends, and we hope to keep them for a long time to come.
All right, you mentioned previously about that interesting Chrysler behind you. It's quite a specimen. Can you tell us about it?
Specimen is a good word to describe it. It's one of 485 1970 Chrysler 300H models, a special two-door coupe that Chrysler produced. They put a 440 engine in it that basically is a similar engine to a GTX. It had 375 horsepower and 480 foot-pounds of torque. So that big tank will just run like a bat out of hell. It's easy to get them up to 100 miles an hour. They had some aero effects built into the trunk of it. They all came with an automatic, but only 40 of them had a floor shifter, which means it's got the automatic transmission on the column, and that's one of the 40s. And it had about a 7-second 0 to 60 time, which for the time was really fast. And when you look at how big that car is, it's basically a Chrysler New Yorker two-door with a performance modification added to it. And the 300H standard for Hurst. It was supposed to be a Hurst shifter edition, like some of the other Hurst special edition cars Chrysler did over the years. Chrysler called them leather cars. Had a beautiful brown leather interior. When these cars were brand new, our car dealership got 2 of them. And so my father got to drive it, and I actually got to drive it. I turned 16 in 1970, and he let me take it to junior high school. I was kind of a year behind. So I was driving this car in the spring of 1970 and just about wrecked it on the way to my junior high school because, of course, I didn't know how to drive. When I first got my license, I sort of felt my way around. But we had a huge amount of fun with those cars back in the day. They were like a spaceship compared to everything else. And they still kind of look like some kind of a spaceship.
So one of your technicians is working on that car. What's he doing to the paint?
That's a car that got painted about 20 years ago, and the paint was looking a little tired. So what he's doing is he's sanding the car with 2,000 and 3,000 grit sanding paper and then polishing it. So we're basically bringing that paint back to life. We're making it look like new again. And the areas that are already completed look spectacular. It's shiny and smooth, and just it brightens the color up. So instead of him having to spend $50,000 or $60,000 repainting this whole car, he might spend $6,000 or $7,000 and get essentially the same result in maybe 2 weeks instead of 3 or 4 months. What makes Farland different than other restoration shops? It really comes down to our amazing people. We have a phenomenal crew. We've got in-house upholstery. Juan, who does our upholstery work, is one of the best upholsterers in the whole country. He's spectacular. He's worked on cars that have gone on to the Riddler contest. It's incredible. Our work is up there with the very best there is. Our painter, Mike, we call him Michelangelo. He's one of the best painters in the world. Our paint is just world class. It's beautiful. That's really one of the things we're really known for, is amazing paint and body work. And then our paint correction with Delar behind us working on this car. He does amazing work. He brings old cars back to life, makes them look like they were just painted. And that's an incredible skill. So each one of our technicians brings some powerful set of skills to bear. And as a team, we work very well together. We're well managed. We're happy. We enjoy what we do. And people feel it. Also, the shop is very clean and well organized. People comment on that when they walk in. They go, "Oh, I've never seen a place that looks like this." Because we work here every day and we like to work in a nice, clean environment that's organized. And when you walk into a place and stuff's piled up and there's no organization, that's a bad sign. So, something to think about when you're first looking at a shop. What does it look like? And I think what Farland does best, we handle the money well, the staff is incredible, and our management team is very on top of it and very friendly. And then we have a whole separate division where we have a separate building where we sell classic cars. And we have an amazing team down there. And we have almost a 5-star rating on Google because we take so much time to properly describe the cars that we sell. And we sell them to places all over the world that customers continually write in and go, "I'm so happy with my car. You described it so beautifully. It's exactly what you said it was going to be." And that's the other thing we want to deliver, is deliver what we promise all the time. And we do.